Hello everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to watch my Logic World video. Um, if you're not familiar with my Logic World videos, I recently purchased Logic World from Steam a while back, about maybe 4 weeks ago. I think it was more like 5 weeks ago. And Logic World is from Steam and it was created by Mousehat Games. And it's basically a sandbox that allows you to create logic circuits in a 3D environment. And it's supposed to be for anyone with any experience, whether you have no experience or tons of experience. It's basically a place where you can play and create 3D representations of logic circuits. And the most advanced thing that you can make is your own CPU. Now, I've been recording my videos from the perspective of a newcomer to logic circuit design, so I can't do stuff like that. And the reason why I'm creating videos despite not having that experience will be later explained at the end of this video. But for now, I will share with you that I'm a newcomer to logic circuit design, and I've been using Logic World as a aid and learning about logic circuit design with the help of a course on Udemy, which is an online learning service similar to Data Camp, Udacity, and some of these other services that you might be familiar with, like Code Academy. There's another one. But Logic World has inspired me to learn more about logic circuit design, so I took this course, and I just completed my first lab in Udemy to design a full adder. Now, if you don't know what a full adder is the binary numbers, what your handheld calculator or your calculator app on your phone or tablet is to decimal numbers. It basically takes binary numbers and adds them together, and this is what this device that I created in Logic World does. Now these are unsigned numbers, meaning that there are no negative numbers being added. So there's no provision for conversion to 2's complement of binary numbers before the addition takes place. These are unsigned numbers. I want to keep this lab rather simple. And the way this full adder works is that it takes 2 stored values programmed by these switches, and the stored values are referred to as A and B, and they are all 16-bit numbers ranging from 0 all the way to 65,536, which is the decimal notation used, but 65,536 happens to be 16 bits all turned on, in other words 16 ones. And when these two numbers are added together, the result is stored in the result total below, represented simply as A plus B. And you'll notice that unlike A and B, the result or sum is 17 bits long. And the reason why is when you add two 16-bit numbers together, you'll get the possibility of having a 17-bit result, just as when you add 2 single-digit numbers in decimal notation, you may have the chance of getting a 2-digit result, such as adding 5 and 7 gives you 12. But I'll show you how this works. This full adder works. Each switch represents a bit column in varying scales of 2 to the power of whatever notation, where 2 to the power of 0 happens to be 1, 2 to the power of 2 happens to be, 2 to the power of 0 happens to be 1, 2 to the power of 1 happens to be 2, 2 to the power of 2 happens to be 4, and 2 to the power of 3 happens to be 8, 2 to the power of 4 happens to be 16, and so on, doubling as you go closer and closer to the most significant bits of each binary number. So if I were to say I want to add 3 and 5. Okay, so the binary notation of 3 is one group of 2 to the power of 1 and one group of 2 to the power of 0, which is 2 and 1, which gives you 3. And if I were to add 5, or I want to add this 3 to 5, the binary notation of 5 happens to be 2 to the power of 2 and 2 to the power of 0, one group each. And the end result is a binary number that is referred to as 1, 0, 0, 0. When a light is turned on, it's 1. When the lights are off, it's 0. And it just so happens that 3 plus 5 happens to be 8 added together, and that is exactly what 2 to the power of 3 is. It's 8. So we know this works for small numbers, but does it work for larger numbers? Well, I happen to have my programming calculator out, which you can't see unfortunately because of the recording software I'm using, but it's there for my own verification that this thing works. So I'm going to add some larger numbers now. I'm going to add 72 and 24, and I'm going to enter 72 into A and 24 into B in binary notation, and we will see if I get the result of, I believe, 96. So let's try that now. I'm going to start with A, and 72 in binary notation happens to be 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. So let's do that now. 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. So that happens to be 72. And I'm now going to add it to 24, the binary notation of which happens to be a bit turned on, and 2 to the power 4 and 2 to the power 3, as so. And on my programming calculator, I end up with 96, which happens to be 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and that is exactly what the full adder in Logic World is doing. Now, the reason why I'm showing my display in binary notation rather than converting it back to a decimal number for display in Logic World is because I have not learned how to do this in my Udemy course yet. I believe I have to learn how to use or how to design a logic circuit to show numbers and what is referred to as binary coded decimals. And I haven't gotten to that chapter of my Udemy course yet, but when I do so, I will show you how I did it in Logic World after I learned how to do a lab in Udemy on BCDs. So we know it works for adding two numbers 72 and 24 together. But what would happen if I were to add even larger numbers, like say 25,891 and 5,910. So let's try that now. Going to my programming calculator, the binary notation of 25,891 happens to be 0110, which is in the most significant digits here, 0101, 0010, and in the least significant bits, 1, 1. So that is the binary notation for 25,891. And now I'm going to add 5,910 and represent it in B. So I've done A, let's do B. And 5,910 is referred to as 0001, 0111. You can see that the binary full adder is working as I enter in the bits. And the next 4 bits is 0001, and finally 0, 1, 0. Okay, now if I were to press the equal sign on my programming calculator, the decimal calculation is 31,801. And that binary notation of such a large number is 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. And that is exactly what the full adder did. So we know that the full adder works. Now, I previously mentioned that when, oops, that's not good. I previously mentioned when you add two binary decimals or two binary bits together, you'll get a carry of 1 if both happen to be 1. In other words, if I were to add 1 plus 1, I get 2. See how the digit lights up here because it's 1 plus 1 happens to be 1, 0, not 10. 1, 0, that's what it's called in binary notation. And the carry is taken over to the next column. Now, how exactly does this work? Well, a full adder uses a series of ands and ors in order to, ands and zors, exclusive ors, in order to do the math. A series of ands and ors, or ands and exclusive ors, excuse me, will generate the following. This is an example of a full adder. This is the full adder for 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 3, and so forth until we get to the very last one at the end, which happens to be 2 to the power of 15. And what happens is, when I enter in for every single column a bit, which is A and B, and I represented it here on X as X and Y because that was what my lab was using at the time. So I simply substituted X for A and Y for B. A full adder consists of two half adders that are then merged together in an OR gate. And the end result of this computation for each bit results in a carry, in a sum. Now, in the example here, if I were to turn on both these bits, the result of these two bits going through these half adders and merging together through this OR gate will result in a carry of 1 and a sum of 0. And as you see here in the next adder, which represents 2 to the power of 1, the carry is brought in and included in part of the calculation in the second half adder, in which case it is then passed over to whatever calculations are awaiting in each full adder. So basically, to recap, a full adder is two half adders that are merged together in an OR. And by the way, Logic World does not have a OR gate, so I had to make my own. And this uses fast buffers to prevent the possibility of a signal leaking back toward the input signal ports. Because unlike an OR gate in real logic circuit design, signals can go both ways in a Y-shaped formation in Logic World. So I had to put fast adder to prevent, as you can see here, the signals from bouncing back. Because had I not done this, this particular line here, for example, will receive a signal if all I had was a Y-shaped pin formation. So, getting back to the result here, the carry is passed on as well as the sum to each full adder down the line. And I mentioned previously before that when you have two 16-bit numbers added together, your end result will be a 17-bit number. And I will demonstrate that by, first of all, entering in the binary representation of 65,536. I think that's right. I'm actually going to double check that in my programming calculator, excuse me. 65,536. Oops, no, I'm sorry. I'm off by one number. It's 65,535. But that's important that I mentioned that error, because this is what we're actually going to produce when we add 1 to this number here. So you can see here all the result bits turned off, but the carry bit is turned on. And if you were to look at the logic, the full adders for each column, they're all lit up and they're carrying both the sum and the adder, both the sum and the carry down the line to the very end. And if you were to look at 2 to the power of 15's full adder, you will see that the carry out is lit, and that wire goes right back to the very carry over LED in the result. Now, forgive my terrible wiring. I've yet to master the fine art of laying down wires. I'm again revisiting my 1970s stereo hookup days, but it works. The full adder works just fine. Now, to get to a point that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, is there are people more qualified than I to make Logic World videos. As I said before, I am a newcomer, and what I have put together is hardly what you would consider an optimal design. I have seen people make logic circuits that are tiny in comparison to what I've put together, and their full adders are barely noticeable. They're very small, yet they accomplish the same thing, a fraction of the size of what I've done with these monstrosities here. I mean, this looks like an IBM mainframe from the 1960s. All that's missing are the tape reel drives. So why am I making these videos? Why do I make videos like this? Well, the reason why I make videos like this is because I'm a newcomer to logic circuit design, and yet I can create logic circuits in Logic World. And if someone like me, who's a complete newcomer, can do something like this, create fairly elaborate devices, if you're nervous about getting Logic World because you don't think you're smart enough to make things like this in Logic World, guess again. You're very likely much smarter than I am, and would probably do a better job making machines and contraptions in Logic World. So don't be intimidated by the fact that you are creating logic circuits. Logic World makes it really easy to do, and it does not require a great deal of expertise or intelligence to do. You just have to think things over and just understand what you're doing through planning and through a little bit of research. So that's the reason why I make these videos. But anyways, thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you found it both entertaining and educational. and feel free to leave comments at the bottom of the bottom of the screen in the comments section. Bye for now.